Peace, family. So I'm back with another one. Today what I want to do is I want to talk to my chosen ones about knowing your spiritual diet, you know what I mean? And what kind of bring me to this subject today is I was just processing and communicating with my nephew, and I was just kind of talking to him about how as we get older, we don't really acknowledge once we get to in our adult ages, since we aren't seeing the physical shifts and changes, we aren't really acknowledging the spiritual changes and growths that's happening. So when you are a baby and you're transitioning to a little human, you change the food portion sizes. You know, you can up the knowledge, you know, the information they're able to obtain and the information you're willing to give, you know. And from little being through your teens, it's always very evident, you know what I mean? Like, the teenagers do not eat the same portion sizes as the little people do that's 5 years old, you know, or as infants. It's no different as we are still growing spiritually as we're adulting. What happens is you hit your peak. When you hit your mature adult stage, that's when you see the physical transformation starts appearing differently. You know, it's not like you still get taller and bigger. That you get bigger depending on if you're still eating, but you're not going to get no taller, you know what I'm saying? But you have other things that starts maturing in you, you know, like either your skin tone starts getting more defined, you start growing more facial hair, which I'm still pretty light in that area. Like, you have a bunch of different things that's still happening. But when I was talking to my nephew, he was talking about, and he mentioned the same thing that I kind of do. We have different portions and times where we may intake a certain amount of food throughout the week, and then we may have a week or two where we don't intake as much food, you know what I mean? And I was flipping that process to also relate that with not just food, like edible foods we can eat, but also the spiritual knowledge we intake through our ears and through our eyes as well, you know, visually. And it had me going back to my journey. It just, like, when it started really growing and ascending. And when I processed that along with my spiritual diet, I realized I did have to fast from certain things that I was watching. I had to fast from certain things I was listening to, you know, and that was all secondary to the food fasting, you know what I mean? A lot of us have a hard time with allowing our body to control us. So if you can control and master that part, you know, so if you feeling a hunger pain or a thought is coming to you about being hungry or needing food, like, that's a time where you can discipline yourself, you know, because if you know you haven't starved yourself throughout the day, you know what I'm saying, or if this is just one of those processes where, all right, I have to drop something or I need to withhold, then you have to understand, like, wherever part you're at in your journey, that's where you have to instill the discipline at. So isn't always times to where you're gonna want to listen to regular ratchet music, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to feed yourself more fruitful music. So you're gonna have to ask the universe or dive and search around, do both, as far as how to present better music to you, so you have another option of listening to music. You know, we're in a different generation to where you can actually find stuff that will be more fulfilling, that you could sing along with, that is light, you know what I'm saying? It feels better, you know. The other shit we can't relate to, you know, because we done been through a lot, so we can listen to some of that other stuff and still relate, you know. But it's past tense relating. The new music with the uplift and the light music, that's more future pulling, you know. You're diving into your future when you're listening to those things. When you're listening to the club bangers or the street niggas who are rapping like they had it hard, you know what I'm saying, that's taking you backwards, you know what I mean? So being aware of your spiritual diet, you know, once you hit 23, 24, that your diet is not going to be the same as when you 30, 31. You know, that's not going to be the same as when you 40, 45. You know what I mean? So just being aware of these things as they're happening and not putting like a whole lot of pressure on yourself to obtain a certain physical weight, you know what I mean? But you have to be aware of the spiritual weight that comes with everything, you know what I mean? So being able to fast and understand when, how, and where you're getting your information, how you're intaking it, all of these things play a factor. They all play a factor. And it's like, the more you could adjust these little things to self-discipline, the easier it's gonna be for you to manage yourself when you gotta deal with these demons. Cause you're not gonna get a break. You're not gonna get a break. You know, I can go in and point the finger on their tactics a lot of the time, you know, because they have a lot of tactics. They're always out here constantly working. But we have to maneuver in both as well, too. You know, like I tell my daughter all the time, like, it's not my fault if you swing on me and you hurt yourself because I blocked you. I just got a strong defensive system. That's on you. Nobody told you to swing at me. So all of this goes into account, you know, just being aware of your spiritual diet, of where you are at in your journey, you know what I mean? So when it comes to this ascension and you get past those certain ages where you are physically growing, you do kind of get stuck and stunted as far as where to go, what to do, how to move, you know, like it's a stunting process if you are not aware of what's actually going on, you know, and that you are still growing and improving and learning. And you have to know that if you are not growing, you are deteriorating. You're doing the opposite. So every day you have to fight to grow. Every day I have to fight to grow. Every day we have to fight to grow. That's the process. These trees wouldn't be here being as strong as solid if they didn't fight to be here. You know what I mean? They still had to weather all of these storms. They standing here solid now, but the storm doesn't skip the trees, be like, hey, yo, I'll skip around you and I'll hit everything else. No. That's why it's important for us to know where we at in these spiritual places and know when it's time to take that fast and diet, because those teach us self-discipline. I would much rather have my own foot on my neck than somebody else constantly pointing out what the fuck I'm doing wrong. I would much rather have my own foot on my neck opposed to somebody constantly pointing out what I'm doing wrong. That'll defeat that whole purpose. You don't have to tell me, because if I do something wrong one time and you see it before I catch it, then boom, it's caught, and now I can work on it right away. You know what I mean? And sometimes your spiritual diet may require you to not engage with certain beings. You know what I'm saying? If you always engaging with a certain being every time they communicate with you, and you know it's not in the best light, you have to do the opposite. They want you to dim your light and to meet them on their frequency. What I do now and what I realize is we are beaming these lights a lot harder. Somebody was trying to shift my energy the other day, and I was just talking about my purpose and stuff, and I realized, like, I wasn't going to dive into the other shit. I realized I'm gonna turn my motherfucking light up and I'm gonna beam it so hard it's blinding them. I don't have to go over to that space every time, you know. It's certain things that I have to experience to know how to engage, to learn how to keep my energy and motion controlled, because sometimes motherfuckers will get you riled up and you already reacting, you know, opposed from taking that second to actually be able to respond. The more you work on that, you work in that experience, the easier it'll be for you to get to responding versus reacting. You know, we always want to be more responsive than reactive. Reactive is needed, that's why it's there. So I'm not gonna tell everybody to always be non-reactive, because it is needed sometimes, but you have to be aware, you know. And that's when I like to be more mindful of, like, everything that's happening in the spiritual world, the invisible world, you know what I'm saying? That's way more powerful, and it leads and controls and dictates this physical realm, you know what I mean? So just knowing where you at spiritually, you know, we do have to take these spiritual diets and fast away from certain things. And we are spiritually dieting and fasting as we're continuously growing and ascending. Each part of your journey, you done dieted and fasted from something. Whether this part of the journey, all right, well, I'm cutting off the people in this part of the journey, but I still need my music. A couple years later or a couple months later, boom, you done got them people removed. Now it's, all right, now I need to fast and diet from this music, and I need to adjust, the vibration that I'm constantly taking in. That's a different fast and diet. You're still feeding yourself, you know what I'm saying? And then you get to the point to where it's like, all right, well, I want to watch something that's more beneficial to me. And then that way, if I'm not watching it and it's watching me, I'm still intaking something that's beneficial. You know what I mean? So it's all these little steps. It's just being mindful and then understanding that you're not going to be able to do all of these things at once. You're not going to be able to cut everybody off at once and transition your music and transition your food and transition everything you're visually seeing. You can do that, but in this Western world, you are probably going to crash out hard. So you're going to have to figure out the balance where you at and what can go first and what can go last. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't want to run it up too long. Tapping everything down below. Peace and love to the kings and queens.